You're proposing a new state, and this is an idea which I'm very familiar with, but I'll ask questions as if though I'm not, hopefully. I find it very exciting, but I think you've explained why we need a new state. That's been done. Can it even be done?
It certainly can be done, Tim. And I will just go back a step there. I over time, and just observing what's not worked, and basically nothing has worked as far as protests and presentations go, and I think it's pretty obvious that we're on a losing streak,
yes.
And we cannot break that losing streak while we're attached politically to that insurmountable political domination in Geelong, Melbourne and the Mornington Peninsula and Newcastle, Sydney and Wollongong. Now, if we want to keep the industries that our livelihoods depend on and keep our prosperity up and in existence and keep ourselves in these towns and our towns prosperous, regrettably or unfortunately, we can't do it while we are attached politically to the urban population of Victoria and the urban population of New South Wales. So I am proposing that we actually form a new state, and this is not actually a new idea, to be quite frank. And for example, I live in southern New South Wales and in an area called the Riverina. Now, it was first proposed that the Riverina separate from New South Wales back in 1860, when they were colonies, of course. Unfortunately, at the time, that didn't occur. But a lot of people may not be aware of Australian history, Tim, in that all of Australia, I think we all know that all of Australia was New South Wales.
Yeah, and New Zealand, I believe.
And New Zealand was part of New South Wales, right to the West Australian border. And Victoria actually separated from New South Wales in 1851. So there is a history of Australia being separated into smaller administrative areas. Of course, they were colonies back then, and Australia, of course, was federated in 1901. Those colonies being New South Wales, the original section of New South Wales, Victoria in 1851, Queensland separated from New South Wales in 1859, and I'll go back a step, I'm a little bit out of order, but Tasmania separated from New South Wales in 1825, and South Australia separated from New South Wales in 1846. So they were all originally New South Wales, separated into separate colonies, and then in Australia, in 1901, those colonies refederated back into the Commonwealth of Australia. So there's a history of separation into smaller administrative areas. And the reason that was done originally, Tim, is because it was better for the people in those areas to govern themselves in those smaller areas. Because the people in Victoria, leading up to the 1850s, they knew that they could govern themselves better and live much more prosperous lives, not being governed by the Home Office in Sydney. And so they separated then.
And so that makes perfect sense, really, when you think about it. The closer to home your government is, and the more they understand your lifestyle, the more they're going to be able to govern for you.
That's right.
Yeah.
And when Australia was federated in 1901, when the founders of Australia constructed the Australian Constitution, they assumed that new states would be formed in this new country, this Commonwealth. And when the Constitution was put together, they provided for the creation of new states.
So that is in the Constitution.
It's been provided for in the Australian Constitution, and I can actually quote the relevant sections. Section 120 of the Australian Constitution gives the federal government the authority to admit new states. Section 121 and Section 122 go into some smaller detail, which I won't go into, but Section 124 is a very, very relevant section to do with states, and it describes the process of forming another state, and the only requirement to form another state is to obtain the consent of the Parliament of the affected state. So to form a Riverina State, which I'm promoting, so that's the name that I'm promoting, but for the New South Wales section requires the consent of the Parliament of New South Wales. That's all that's required to form that state. And the federal government, of course, has the the authority to admit that new state into the Commonwealth.
Yeah.
And the proposed Riverina State includes what's historically the Riverina area of New South Wales, but also large areas of Victoria. And all that's required to include the areas of Victoria is the consent of the Parliament of Victoria.
Yeah. So that would be the hard part then, would be getting the consent. The Constitution's quite basic, that's very simple, very clear. Getting the consent's going to be the work, I suppose.
It is, Tim, but it's very, very simple. It's certainly not complicated. Now, as far as gaining the consent of the Parliament of New South Wales for the New South Wales section and the Parliament of Victoria for the Victorian section, now the Riverina State group, of which I'm the president, and I will say now we have 1,670 members of that group. We are in the process of registering a political party called the Riverina State Party, and we will stand candidates in the next federal election under the party name the Riverina State, and hopefully in the next New South Wales and Victorian state elections we will also stand candidates under the name the Riverina State. Now, the reason for that is it's part of the process to lead to state formation. The first thing that a registered party will do will put the issue into the public domain in a way that really cannot be done any other way. The great benefit of having a party named the Riverina State is the advertising value to begin with. Now, the reason the advertising value is so good is that the party name will be printed on the voting ballots in the elections that we stand candidates, and so we're talking about 900,000 voting ballots. Yeah. So to get the Riverina State name printed on up to 900,000 voting ballots, that's actually massive. So there's a huge advertising value as far as getting the issue out there. There is media attention on this because it's a big story, which helps get the message out there further again. Yeah. And during elections, when people go to vote, they'll get their voting card, and you'll have the Liberal Party, the Labor Party, the National Party and the Greens and the Riverina State written on that voting ballot. And it will give people the opportunity to express their support for state formation with their vote. So I hope that we get a lot of primary votes. If we get 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 or 50,000 or 100,000 votes, it's a massive statement from the public in those areas, and we will get those votes, I will say right now. It will be a massive statement of public support for state formation. So,
yeah, I was just going to ask, so what does that achieve? Like having that support, but you know, realistically, you're going to have a very hard time actually getting candidates or yourself in. So what does that actually show?
Yeah, I think, Tim, I think a lot of people make the mistake of thinking that elections are either you get elected or you failed, but that's not the case. There's we will use elections to, number one, to advertise the issue. Number one, to advertise the issue. Number two, to get people to express support, public support for the issue with their vote. Now, if we get someone elected, that's really, really good. But even if we don't get anyone elected, the fact that we get 5, 10, 15, 50,000 or 100,000 votes, as I said before, it's a huge expression of public support for state formation. And we will use that public expression for state formation to demand a referendum on state formation.
Ah, yes, okay.
Now, a referendum will be a vote of the people in that proposed state on whether those people want to form that state. It will not include the population of Melbourne or Sydney, only the people in that proposed state. And I'm actually very confident that we will win that referendum, and that successful referendum will be used to cause or persuade or cause the Parliament of Victoria to consent to the formation to part of Victoria, leaving the state of Victoria to become part of that Riverina State, and also to cause the consent of the Parliament of New South Wales to consent to the formation of that state, and part of New South Wales separating from New South Wales.
Okay, so you're not necessarily, you don't have to get in at all, you don't have to get any of your candidates in. You're just showing the support, and I guess from showing support too, I mean, other parties would probably jump on board
Yeah.
if there's a lot of support.
Yeah.
But
If we get someone elected, that would be ideal.
Yeah.
But even if we get no candidates elected, we will still use the public expression of support to justify a referendum on state formation.
yeah,
The other thing, Tim, that it will do, I'm very sure. Now, I don't want to sound like I'm critical of other politicians or candidates for election,
I don't mind critical of that.
but I'm really quite confident that the public expression of support will be seen by other candidates for election, and assuming that we get anywhere between 5 to 100,000 votes, I'm confident that a lot of other politicians and candidates for election will see that this is a popular issue, and they will be more inclined to express public support for state formation as well.
Yeah.
I'm very, very confident that that will happen, that a lot of politicians that maybe will just see how the wind's blowing on this issue, we will see how the wind blows on this issue, and it's a good wind, and we will find increased not only public support for state formation, but increased political support for state formation.
Yeah.
And that's one of the other benefits of standing candidates under the name the Riverina State in federal elections and New South Wales state elections and Victorian state elections.
Yeah, no, I love it, and certainly if I get a ballot paper and I'm seeing that name Riverina State on there, that's getting the number one. Yeah, because